Hello, everyone. My name is John. I'm a recovered alcoholic.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
I announce myself as recovered in accordance with page 90 of the AA Big Book. Welcome to the Alcoholics Anonymous Practicing the Principles Family Afterwards Thursday morning workshop of the Fourth Column, Fourth Dimension group. I am your speaker this morning. If the workshop finishes early, we'll use the remaining time as a general discussion based on the workshop topic. Would all who care to please join me in opening with a moment of silence for those who are still sick and suffering. Join me in the set-aside prayer. God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, my disease, these steps, and especially you, for an open mind in a new experience with myself, my disease, these steps, and especially you. Show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. Amen. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to the causes and conditions. Big Book, page 64. It does not matter what substances you may or may not have used. They are all different, but the solution is always the same. The proper application of the 12 steps as presented in the Big Book brings about a recovered life. And always remember, contempt prior to investigation is a bar against all knowledge. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I have asked Cole to read the 12 traditions.
Good morning, I'm Cole. I'm a recovered alcoholic.
Good morning, Cole.
Number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Number 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Number 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Number 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups of AA as a whole. Number 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Number 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Number 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Number 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. Number 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. Number 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. Number 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. Number 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you very much, Cole. All right, and Josh has agreed to read a portion of page 28.
My name's Josh, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Josh.
The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book Varieties of Religious Experience, indicates a multitude of ways in which men have discovered God. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living Creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. Those having religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There is no friction among us over such matters. We think it no concern of ours what religious bodies our members identify themselves with as individuals. This should be an entirely personal affair, which each one decides for himself in the light of past associations, or his present choice. Not all of us join religious bodies, but most of us favor such memberships. Big Book, page 28.
Thank you,
very
Josh.
much. Thank you, Josh. All right. Today is Practicing the Principles workshop. And we're going to start really by, now that we've had a few base meetings covering the disease itself, we covered the transition of moving from having faith in material things to faith in this unseen living creator, as is described on page 28, to actually turning our life over to the care of this power, and that being the keystone of our program, and the all-important part, that he is our new employer, as it says on page 63. And that we have a real job. Our job now is to help other alcoholics. It's the role God has assigned. Don't ask me why, but I can assure you this. The role we've all been assigned is to work for God as an employer with a capital E. And that job is to sober up other people that are like us, because no one else can do it, you see. That gives us a telltale sign that that is our job. If other people could do it, let's just say normal folks could come in and fix us up, then it wouldn't be as obvious. But each one of us is challenged with and blessed with the ability to help the next suffering addict or alcoholic. So, when we look at performing God's work well and sticking close to him, as it says on page 63, we're going to have to take that awfully seriously. Because if we don't perform his work well, we go perform our work well, we're right back in the same old situation. Now, work doesn't sound too much like belief, and it doesn't sound too much like thinking, does it? I hear a lot about thinking out there in the world. I better think myself into doing things. I will do what I think what I'm thinking about. And there may be some truth to all of that. But in all reality, when it tells us on page 63, we have to stick close to him, God, and perform his work well, I take that seriously. My experience has been when I did, instead of just toying around with this program like a lot of people do, God has taken care of me each and every day better than I could have ever taken care of myself. Abundance in happiness, joyousness, freedom, and a whole lot of material stuff too. So that's not only something our book says, but it's been my experience. Now, I'll tell you, it took me years to get around to the point that I was willing to trust God, though. I mean, I don't want to be on any moral hilltop, as you'll hear me emphasize about this topic, because it took me years to actually go from being a person who just had mouth service when it came to this stuff to someone who put it into action. But I can tell you safely, because I'm not lying to anybody, that absolutely, if you will trust God with everything you got, put it in his hands, the relationships, the family, the car, the house, the life, he will not let you down. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be a skip along in the park kind of life. Probably not any more than it is for anybody, whether they're normal or alcoholic or anything else. Life has its challenges. So I want to take just a moment to share with you a vision I had when I was talking with God about that one day. This vision was of a man climbing a mountain. And it was a beautiful, picturesque scene, like the painted desert kind of thing. I mean, it's beautiful. There's little flowers blooming, beautiful sunset, beautiful rocks in this vision. And he's climbing, and he's enjoying it. But sweat's dripping off of him. Grabbing for rocks, pulling himself up. There are some thorns and thistles around. And in this brief few moments that was, I think, a visual answer to this prayer, it showed me that this is how life works. It's a lot like climbing a mountain. Just like people will voluntarily go out and put their hiking gear on and get on the mountain and go climb a mountain because it's exhilarating, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Well, that's what life is for us. But remember, it's a climb. Another time, I was talking with God, and it was a similar deal. I was saying, well, God, now don't take this prayer seriously, but if I was praying for everything I wanted, what would that look like? I'm just going to present it. And I did. I said, well, and these were kind of the humanly things. Well, God, naturally I'd want comfort and luxury, right? Oh, okay. Well, naturally, I want people kind of waiting on me. I mean, I've seen that on TV. You want people to take care of you, be at your service kind of deal. And, of course, I would want my loved ones to care about me and be just absolutely dedicated, Oh, okay. And after I got through this whole little spiel of what I wanted, I got this vision of a man in a bed that was in a coma. Everybody cared about him. Everybody loved him. Everybody, the nurses and doctors, they were all at his beck and call. Oh, he was being taken care of all right. He was in a coma. Those two visions helped me differentiate between what my wants are and what they lead to versus what God has planned for me. God wants me climbing a mountain, sweating, hot, and enjoying the beautiful scenery. I, for much of my life, had in the back of my mind, almost on the subliminal or subconscious level, whatever you want to call it, way back there somewhere, had an idea that life, the perfect life, would be being in a coma. Wow. No wonder I had some difficulties. So God's helped to reveal to me some things, and I do believe God does communicate with us. He communicates with us through books. He communicates with us through people. He communicates with us through just little mental images. And sometimes I think he even talks to us if we listen close enough. You've heard of the small, still voice, right? Well, those are some of my experiences in those quiet times when I'm visiting with my Creator. I'm sure you can enjoy those kind of times too and get answers to deep life questions. Okay, we're going to move on here. I hope it'll make sense why I've shared all this other as a foundation here in just a moment. Everybody turn over to page 83. At the bottom paragraph, it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Okay, we're going to stop there and kind of go through these promises we hear in meetings around the globe. It says if we're painstaking. That means if we're putting forth some real work, painstaking about this phase of our development. What phase of our development is this? Does anyone know?
Cleaning house.
Close. It's the 9th step. We are painstaking about making our amends. Now remember, I warned yesterday that making amends is a long-term process. Mm-hmm. It goes on to tell us that we will be amazed before we're halfway through. That means after I've made the first 2 or 3 phone calls or letters or what have you, it's before I'm halfway through. I'm going to be amazed at what making these amends are. And then I just have to be willing to continue with it for a long time. Now, there are a lot of people that have huge amounts of amends to make. For me personally, I have come in the program, followed a lot of these guidelines, got most of my amends made, and then in a completely dry state of what we often call a dry drunk, created a whole new batch of amends that were bigger than the ones that I had when I was drinking. That's pretty sad too, because you don't get to make an excuse anymore. You don't get to blame it on being drunk. It's actually, you come to this realization, it's me. And that's why I was drinking in the first place, is because me does some really stupid things all on my own. I don't have to have alcohol's help. But we will be amazed before we're halfway through, and you certainly will be. It tells us something, though, that's unique here, and this is kind of where the rubber meets the road with this particular part of the book. Are we experiencing a new freedom and a new happiness? If it's the same old freedom that we had at some other stage of our life, that's not a new freedom. If it's the same old happiness that we've been accustomed to, that we think we know as happiness, that's not a new happiness. So that's your indicator, that's your sign, if you will, that you're working this plan, this program correctly. It's when you step into the realm of a new freedom and a new happiness. Now, I told you a little bit about that a moment ago when I started out, when I said that I trusted God with everything. That meant I gave up a lot of the material possessions and other things that I'd looked for security with. And I moved forward in trusting God completely. Guess what? I found a new freedom. You know what that freedom was?
Freedom from fear.
Freedom from fear, resentment, dishonesty, and selfishness. A new freedom. Guess what? When I don't have those feelings dominating my life, I've got a new happiness. Something I've never known. What I used to have was some kind of giddy feeling when I'd get my way or get what I want or buy something new, and I would be blotting out some fear or blotting out some selfishness or blotting out some dishonesty or blotting out some resentment. That's what I thought happiness was. It wasn't happiness at all. Most of my life, what I called happiness was excitement. And I knew 2 emotions. I knew excitement and I knew depression. And I was constantly in a battle to stay away from depression and get my excitement so I could blot out my depression. Of course, I didn't know it at the time. I thought every human being was experiencing that, and I thought that's just how it is. And I guess there are a lot of people there. But there are a lot of people that are over on this other side of that fence, and that's where we're free of resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness. And if we're free of those things, well, happiness a new happiness is automatic. Okay, so we broke down that sentence pretty effectively. It tells us we're not going to regret the past or wish to shut the door on it, and that's for darn sure. I'm not going to regret the past. In fact, it's the only asset I have right now, and the greatest thing in my life is to be able to sit here with young men and women and talk to them about this thing called a dry drunk. To be able to have that hope that I can take that young man that's 23, 25, or 32 and save them that 12 or 15 years of having to learn that this really is a disease. Because, having to learn that on your own is a real bummer. Because it's a long lesson. You could get you 2 PhDs in the time that it takes to learn that on your own. Let's learn this now and go on and get the PhDs or whatever. Let's not waste that time. And I want to give you a little background of how that happens. Is we have this wonderful program back in the day when people really, really worked on this program and they helped one another out diligently. I mean, Dr. Bob went through the steps with 5,000 people in his first 15 years. Okay? That's how hard these fellows were working back in the day, and it was working well. Well, today you see people that don't plan on sponsoring anybody for the rest of their life. If they can get sober, get what they want out of life, that's all they want. You can see where the problem is. They don't usually stay sober with such a cheesy attitude about it. And the other is, it's not helping the people. So, what we're getting into is how to actually utilize this information from our past, as Dr. Bob did, and as many, many others, to be your principal asset, to save a man from dying from drugs and alcohol, to save a man from dying spiritually, from chasing a bunch of material possessions and false ideas. In a nutshell, a bunch of false gods, basically. Okay, so it goes on to tell us here that there are many other good things. We're going to lose interest in selfish things. That's another indicator. Listen closely. If you've got an interest in selfish things, you're probably not working a program. Now, I love people that argue about this. No, I'm working a good program, blah, 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 and all that. Excuse me. We'll wait for Dave to clear his throat there. No, they'll go through all of this. Oh, I'm working a good program. But at the same time, you see their thoughts are self-seeking. Their motives are selfish. They don't have time to sponsor that guy because they've got to make some more money on top of the money they've already got. They don't know about this new freedom or happiness. But they'll argue with you all day about how they're working their program. Not that I'm arguing with them, but they'll tell you about it. And even sometimes get offended. The truth is, if my self-seeking hasn't slipped away, and I haven't lost interest in selfish things, then I'm still a drunk. Whether I'm drinking, or whether I'm sticking a needle in my arm, or not.
Doing his own.
Because what does it tell us the root of this disease is?
Selfishness.
Selfishness. So if I haven't gotten rid of that, I have no right to claim sobriety. I mean, I might as well be honest. I'm not sober for crap, and I can't seem to get this deal because I'm selfish as hell, and I wish somebody could help me. Wouldn't that be a lot more practical than going in and pretending like you got the program?
Shucking and jiving.
I think if I start a group here soon, I think I might call it the honesty group. I don't care what you say, just make sure it's honest, please. We can work with that. I have. You can hear something deep inside this. I'm so fed up with the dishonesty that I've seen around all these different congregations and groups and meetings where people get together and are blowing smoke up one another's backside. It doesn't help the individual. It doesn't help the group. So let's be honest. Have a lost interest in selfish things. That's a pretty good sign that I'm getting this deal. Now, I'm promised that new freedom and happiness, so it's not like it's without reward. Okay. Now, let's jump on down to this next paragraph beyond the one that I'd finished with a moment ago. It says, this thought brings us to step 10. Take a look in your book. This thought brings us to step 10. Everybody see where that's at?
Yes, sir.
What thought?
Mints.
The promises. The promises bring that thought of those promises materializing and working and coming to fruition. That thought brings us to step 10. Okay, now I'm getting it. How many years do you think we might be able to miss that few words that begin that paragraph? This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So it tells us we're going to be cleaning this past up. Sometimes for many years. In fact, I think for most of us, it's the rest of our life. There's still going to be moments and people we run into that even 12, 15 years down the road, they're like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. Man, you're looking good. Well, yeah, it's been a while. What are you doing these days? And this old relationship you'd even forgot about, this person gets to see you in the sunshine of the Spirit. I heard about a story one time where a man, it just dawned on him, this is after he's like 25 years sober. It was Richard Beach, or better known as Sandy Beach. Dawn's on him, he's sitting down, he's going to eat some popcorn and watch a movie, or it's a football game, important football game is what it was. And I mean, he's going to relax. And this voice came into his mind and says, what about such and such? And it's this person he hadn't thought about in years that he had borrowed like $70 from, hadn't paid it back. He said, oh, forget that. I'll get to that later. No, you need to take care of it now. Oh, come on. There's a game that I'm supposed to. I got my popcorn right here in my lap. I'm ready to enjoy this. You must. So he turns off the game. He gets up. He says, I don't even know where this guy's at. Last time I saw him, he was in such and such area, but he's probably not even there anymore. Go ahead and make the call. Okay, now if I make the call and I can't find him in directory, then I'm going to go back to my game. Okay, God? And he makes the call. Sure enough, the guy's number's listed. He makes the call. Calls the guy. The guy says, what? You owe me $70? I don't even remember. He said, yeah, I do. I owe you $70. I'm going to get that right to you. I need your address. Send him like $150 or something to kind of make up for the many years that had passed. But the guy had made an inquiry while they were on the phone. He said, what are you doing these days? He told him about it as part of his program. Had to make these amends. They'd been sober for 25 years. Told him what had happened. Well, a couple of years later, he's at a conference, Richard Beach is. And he puts on his presentation of the program. And a lady walks up to him and says, hey, Richard, I just want to let you know that you'd called a couple of years ago to make an amends to my husband. Well, he's passed on now. He got cancer and died. But for the last 2 years, he decided to start making these meetings. And he was a sober man when he died. Richard never even knew that this man also suffered from alcoholism and had a similar alcoholic fate. But in that last 2 or 3 years of his life, because of that phone call to make amends, had allowed that man to make his first meeting. That man sobered up and enjoyed and allowed his wife to enjoy a sober husband for the last 2 years of his life. How neat is that?
Cool.
Okay, so these amends are something that are going to take sometimes a lifetime. It may be 25 years down the road. It dawns on you, $70 you borrowed from somebody, and you may have a little voice telling you, today's the day. Make the call. Do it. You may save their life. You may do something for God, because remember, God's our new employer. Not John Doe company out there. Not some obscure human organization, but the Almighty Creator, the living Creator. Okay. So here we are. We're looking at the promises and this thought bringing us to this 10th step and cleaning up that wreckage from the past and taking our time. This is a new way of living. Now it tells us a little bit of something here. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is no overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. So what did that just tell us? We've entered the world of spirit. We are no longer thinking in our old method, which was the world of the material. This is about the spirit that we're living by. Am I living by the spirit of resentment? Am I living by the spirit of fear? Is it fear that gets me out of bed in the morning? Is it fear of my creditors that gets me in my car? Is it fear that gets me to my job? Is it fear that keeps me at my job? Because if it is, I'm not living by the right spirit. So we're entering the world of spirit. That means we're going to recognize these spirits by which we're living by. These are going to be very important. We're no longer going to worry about a material item and the delusion that somehow getting the right barbecue grill on the right day of summer is all we need to make us happy. We're going to know that has nothing to do with our happiness. It has, it's a barbecue grill. Okay, we're getting real. It's a barbecue grill. We're going to understand it's the spirits that we're living by. Is selfishness going to be my God? Is dishonesty going to be my ruler? Is fear going to be my master? And am I going to be subject to resentment? No, I've got a new freedom. And that's because I've entered the world of the Spirit. I'm recognizing what's important. It's not to purchase the barbecue grill or the new car, but to purchase my freedom from slavery. That's what they're talking about here. If we miss this part of the book, guess what? We don't have a program. Now, you might be able to stay sober, but if you're running around with all this, it's not going to be a pleasant sobriety. When I say all this, you can see up on the whiteboard here. Again, just for the recording purposes, it's resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness. Okay. Now, you'll notice on the board where I have written resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness, they are surrounding a square box. Because this box represents the four walls that block me from the sunlight of the Spirit. And I'm sitting right here in the middle like I'm sitting in the jail cell. Think of it that way. That's the cell I sit in, and the walls that hold me in and block me from the sunlight of the Spirit The good spirit are these emotions, these spirits. Now you see, God is trying to penetrate through these walls all the time. He's ready. Now I want you to visualize this room that we're sitting in. Actually, just look around. We're sitting in it. Okay? You notice there are walls, but we got a few windows, don't we? Okay, this sunlight of the Spirit can come in some of these little openings I have here. So no one in this room is without God in their life. You're getting a little sunlight, or you probably wouldn't have made it.
Amen.
However, this is about breaking these barriers, and instead of a little nook somewhere letting some sunlight in your life, getting rid of resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness, and letting the sunlight penetrate. So instead of all these other spirits surrounding and governing your life, as you can see here on the whiteboard, we end up with it being God governing my life.
You know, it's kind of like my brother said while he was getting treatment for cancer, he had planned an office party for his staff at the law school there in San Diego because he was the head librarian at the law school. And he said, and then his intestines exploded because the chemo made him so weak. And he said, we planned this party, but you know, man plans, God laughs, meaning God's in control. So that was kind of a sobering statement that he made.
It was, and thank you very much, David. Man plans, but what we're doing here is we're entering the world of the Spirit completely. That was probably a statement of where an individual is talking about their acceptance of what reality is.
Right.
And what we're talking about is today, not an obscure place out in the future someday. We're not talking about some noble ideas that we might want to take up in our life at some point. What we're talking about is right now, today. Can I watch, as the book is telling me, it's giving me very clear-cut instructions, can I watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear? And now, can I do what the book tells me that I need to do? What does the book say here? When these crop up, that means it's kind of like a little seed that's cropped up. We ask God at once to remove them. What does that say? At once. That doesn't say tomorrow. That doesn't say a few hours from now, but at once. Is at once pretty quick?
That's pretty quick.
Okay. It tells me that I discuss them with someone immediately. How fast is immediate?
Now.
It's like, man, as quick as I can get it done. I mean, now. Immediacy.
Just to get it.
And we make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. And then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. So this completely dispels that myth that permeates the NA and AA rooms across America and possibly around the globe. This belief that, resentments crop up. I get to be resentful for a week and a half at somebody, or a year and a half, or whatever, until I go take a drink and a half, No, that's not what it's. What it's very clearly implying is, if this crops up, that I am to know it right now. Did you get that impression when I read this? I mean, that I'm to know when this feeling of resentment comes upon me.
Yeah, to watch.
Good
I
watch.
I'm watching. I'm not just waiting until, oh, I'll be damned. I'm resentful. No, I'm watching. Hey, there's some resentment on the way. I'm up here in my vantage point and I'm watching. My job is to keep an eye on the fort. Make sure we're safe. So I see resentment coming. The next thing is I follow these very clear-cut instructions like they were instructions to a mathematical equation. I ask God at once. I talk to someone immediately. It doesn't say I go talk to my sponsor immediately. It says I talk to someone because I may not be anywhere near my sponsor. And I may not be anywhere near a phone, and I've still got to do this. That means if I'm at a ball game and I'm fearful about, maybe I've been invited to speak at the Little League game, and I'm just having some silly little fear come up on me. What are all the other parents going to think about my speech, And I can't talk with my sponsor or anything. The first thing I'm going to do is, God, would you remove this fear of talking in front of these parents for this Little League team? And then the next thing is, I might not have anybody to talk with, like my sponsor. I can talk with the person at the concession stand, and say, it's so silly of me. I'm supposed to talk today at the Little League game, and I'm over here feeling some fear. Or maybe I just announce it to the crowd. I am so nervous because I'm fearful of talking in front of all you parents, but I'm going to do the best I can today. The point is, I talk to someone immediately to diffuse that fear. This is not about, I've got to get on the phone with my sponsor later tonight or tomorrow and have an in-depth discussion about how I was afraid to speak in front of the ball game. No, this is talking about living, being in the real world and having an algorithm. And the reason I call it an algorithm, it's like a mathematical algorithm. I follow this process every time. I don't miss a beat. Yes, sir.
Like not wanting to hear the truth. Kind of a deal.
Explain a little further.
I don't know. Because sometimes the stuff that I need to hear, but the input in my mind will kind of just be like, trying to block some of it off. Or just, my ego will match up with
Dishonesty.
Yeah.
No, okay, so I was talking about fear here. But yeah, you got dishonesty going. I don't want to hear the truth. Hey, I'll get in an argument with you about that.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're coming at me with the truth. How dare you come at me that way? Yeah, I know that feeling.
Or not saying anything and build a resentment.
Yeah. So what do? I follow this process. I ask God, this guy's trying to tell me the truth. I'm being dishonest. I don't want to hear the truth about myself. Would you remove this dishonesty? I use those kind of words. At once. Not next week, but at once. Hopefully within the same 60-second time frame, I go from having the feeling to having the prayer. I'm talking about right then and there. Same minute. Then I talk to someone about it immediately. So I look over at the guy who's trying to tell me the truth and I say, it's really wrong of me to giving you that objection a minute ago. You are right. You're telling me the truth about myself, and I'll be frank with you, it's a little bit hurtful. But I needed to hear that. And for me, saying a couple of kind of abrasive words a moment ago, I just want to apologize. That was uncalled for. I was just being dishonest with myself and being dishonest with you. Thank you for telling me the truth. And then I'm like, turning my thoughts to someone I can help. Immediately I realize I've just helped this dude out because he might be a normal guy saying, what the hell is this guy doing? He's being all honest and stuff. He was expecting me to argue. He's seen this before. And all of a sudden he sees a peaceful, honest man. Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. I kind of played it out like at the concession stand. I was like, well, the guy's probably going to say, everybody would be fearful in that situation. I was like, well, exactly. That's not supposed to be that way. Kind of do.
Well, we do run into these. That's why it tells us they're going to crop up. But we don't use that as an excuse. And that's what many, many people do. I'm not going to say most, but a whole lot of people use that one sentence. When these crop up is the reason that they've been angry for a week at their wife. Oh, it says in the book they're going to crop up, and man, mine cropped up and it's sticking around. You went from being a little seed sprout to you letting it grow into a freaking tree in the last week, okay? Now it's like a mighty oak. You're going to have trouble getting that thing uprooted and out of your life. Last week, it was an acorn sprout, okay? So that's part of the reason. Let's deal with this stuff. Now that we know how to deal with this, how to use this process or algorithm, this system, whatever you want to call it, it's 5 components to living your life from this day forward. From this day forward, 5 things that are necessary. You know what they are, right?
Watch, ask, talk, cease, help others.
That's it. Watch. Got to watch. I'm at the vantage point here. I'm watching for these things to come. I'm going to ask God. I'm going to talk it over with someone else immediately. Ask God to remove the emotion, the spirit that's starting to possess me, or the emotion that's going to control my life. Whether you want to put it in psychological or theological terms, same deal. I'm going to ask God to remove it. I'm going to talk it over with someone immediately. I'm going to cease fighting. Making those amends is cease fighting. I'm going to make up right then. Because it tells me how to do that immediately. Quickly. And then I'm going to turn my thoughts to help others. And as you know, when we just use the word watch, that's W-A-T-C-H. Watch, ask,
Talk.
Cease.
Cease and help. Watch, ask, talk, cease, help. So we know we've got a process to live by now. Now, you want to go back to that other method? Do you remember your other method?
Bitch.
Remember, we're being recorded here.
Yeah, okay.
No foul language. No, but you're about right, aren't you? It was, it was like I didn't have a method, right? It was just like, I'll wing it. Today, I'm going to throw something across the room. Okay, that's how I'm going to deal with this today. And tomorrow, I'm going to give somebody the silent treatment. And on another day, I'm going to shoot the finger at somebody. I had no method. I didn't know what to do. It was just I'll wing it. And it usually wasn't pretty, by the way. It wasn't like I'll wing it and I'll be very angelic and understanding and kind. And no, it was usually the result of fear or dishonesty or selfishness. It was pretty
React instead of
ugly.
respond.
This process, we set aside the old life. We get rid of all our old principles and philosophies. We look at these 5 things, which is 4 things that we actually do after watching and identifying the emotion or spirit. Throw out the window everything you've been taught other than these things for dealing with life. If you believe that there is another method to deal with a problem like selfishness, resentment, dishonesty, or fear, get rid of it. There's no other way. If you do it any other way, there's a good chance that's the beginning of the next drunk. I'm not saying you're going to run out and get drunk that minute, but it is the beginning of the next drunk that might hit you in 12 years. Is that day you decide, I don't have to do this program. I'm going back to the one where I throw stuff at people. I'm going to go back to the one where I raise my voice so loud I scare people. I'm going to go back to the one where I walk off and hurt someone's feelings instead of making the amends that I owed them. Don't go back. This is where sobriety is. And don't ever use this sentence of when they crop up as an excuse. If you find yourself doing that, just remember, you need to ask God, to remove the dishonesty at that moment that you're actually using his very program that he's sharing with you in this book to not do his will. When these crop up, if that's being used in any fashion as an excuse, and you know when it's an excuse, throw that out the window. And don't listen to anyone who tells you that. Anyone who, and you can tell when they're using it as an excuse too, as their loophole to continue living like a drunk.
Like a clod.
Okay. So let's jump on over. We've got the message. Again, I've belabored that. Why? It is the program. That's how we live now. Every day from now on. Okay, let's jump over to page 89. It tells us that practical experience shows that nothing will so much as ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Okay, we're going to talk about this paragraph. And in the essence of time, we're going to really get detailed about this paragraph without going into perhaps the next couple of paragraphs, which I'd planned. But if we go over a little bit, that's okay. The message is far more important than us keeping a clock for this type of meeting. Okay, it says practical experience. That means this is not a theory. This is experience. We've watched it. It shows. It doesn't tell us. It shows us that nothing will so much as ensure immunity from drinking as what? Light, moderate work with other alcoholics. Is that what it says?
Yes.
No.
Intensive. That's like intensive care at the hospital. Intensive work with other people that are homeless under the bridge, or people down at the work site that need help with their job. Alcoholics. I think there's one exception here. It could include a drug addict. But anyone who says to you in a meeting, well, you just carry this in all your affairs and you're lovey-dovey to everybody and kind and you just help wherever you can. Just remember, they haven't read that sentence. And if they did, they didn't pay attention to what it means. It says other alcoholics. And it says intensive. Welcome to your new job. You've got a new employer. Your job is no longer based on these little folding green things you put in your wallet. Your job is based on life. The man who's drowning that needs your help. And we look at it with the same seriousness as that individual that's drowning. A dying man. Now I want you to visualize with me for a moment. You're jogging along down on the trail by the Concho River. Are you guys visualizing? There's a man over there, and he's drowning in the Concho River. Are you going to just jog on by? Or are you going to jump in the water and save him? He's bobbing up and down. What are you going to do?
Reach, throw, or go.
You're going to jump in there without hesitation. It's not even going to be a second question. It is not even going to be a second question. My sister that's in a wheelchair would roll her wheelchair off there and swim over and get that man and save him. And I kid you not, because she can swim. She'd just roll right down the hill. Boom, splash in the water and go save that drowning man's life. Now, We don't make excuses with human lives, and that's one of the cool things about us humans. We actually do care a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. It's a little harder to see the man that's drowning from alcoholism as the person that's in the water, but it's really the same thing. And they're all around us, all the time. Why would I put my job ahead of someone's life? Let's just look at another scenario. I've got my suit and tie on, getting out of my car, and I'm walking along Concho River. There's somebody drowning, but I've got a business deal going on inside that's taken me 8 months to get the business appointment set up. There's a man sitting in there with a $100,000 check or more. We've agreed on it, but he's told me, because of a previous appointment I'd missed, that if you're 2 minutes late, call it off, don't even come see me. I'm ready. I'm on time. I'm about to walk in that door, but over in the Concho River there, right next to the convention center, there's a man drowning. What would I do? Would I go on in the convention center and get my $100,000?
Probably not.
Probably not. I'd probably say to hell with the $100,000. Damn it. I got to save somebody's life. And I'd do it, and you would too.
I'm sure you would.
So let's try to apply those same principles to the other drowning people out there. You're the only one who can save them. We understand clearly now, it's kind of a summary through our week, we understand we've got a fatal physical illness. They call it an allergy to the alcohol and drugs, and we know that it's genetic now. Based on quite a bit of research that's done, the jury's no longer out on that. That you can actually take a fluid sample from an unborn baby and have it genetically tested and know that that baby is going to become a methamphetamine addict or an alcoholic, that there's a huge chance of that child getting involved in that, almost assuredly will. So we know that it is a fatal malady that we've been born with. The next thing we understand is that we've been taught a lot of great things that are common sense that work for normal people that don't have those genes, that are absolutely bad advice for us alcoholics. Things like, you got to make your mark in this world. You've got to be a productive, money-making citizen. College degree will make you all better. Getting the right woman, that'll do it. Well, for us, things that matter to other people don't matter to us. What matters to us is God. Letting God run our life and letting Him take care of the college degree if He wants us to have one, and letting Him take care of the woman and the etc., etc., etc. We quit worshiping the God of reason. Our brain power that leads us in all kinds of strange directions. We moved on to understanding that we're going to pass through an arch to freedom by turning our life over to God and letting Him be our employer. We understood one big thing out of that, and that is we need the same feeling with our job with God as we would with an employer. For example, can today I feel the same level, hear that word, feel the same level of responsibility working for God as I would if I went and got a job over at 7-Eleven. They said show up to work tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Can I feel that same level of responsibility that I got to be there? I've got to do my job. We stick close to Him, perform His work well, He's going to take care of all of our needs. Then we moved on. And what we were talking about today is how that new freedom and happiness works. Is we are free of resentment, fear, selfishness, and dishonesty. And what a freedom it is. We've broke down the barriers. And then our job, come back to it, tells us we go work with other alcoholics and drug addicts and share that same message with them, how to get them out of that four-wall prison of selfishness, resentment, dishonesty, and fear. That's our meeting for today. I hope it's been edifying. I hope you, more than anything else, you'll apply these simple principles, because this is the true program. It comes from the book. It's not an opinion that you're hearing in some AA meeting somewhere. If you do this, you will receive all of those rewards and promises we just talked about on page 83 and 84. So this thought brings us to, it's time to have the Lord's Prayer. Who will bring us a new freedom and a new happiness?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works when you work it.
Thank you, John. Good presentation.
Thank you, David.